The incredibly underwhelming offseason for the Philadelphia Phillies continues on, and despite the efforts of teams around the league getting better, the Phillies seem to be content standing on their hands. We know this as much as the organization is directly putting that out there, with Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thomson showing their faces to the media for their first time and addressing that they're okay with the state of where this franchise is. I do want to dive into why that is such a missed opportunity, and really just the overall mindset difference in a team like the Phillies compared to a team like the Mets. This is not a spot where I want to be in. And before I dive too deep in the frustrations here, to make a message clear, this Phillies baseball team is still going to be a playoff team. This is still going to be a good team. This is still in the over hierarchy of the MLB, going to be ranking amongst the upper echelon of teams. However, can we sit here and feel better about the chances of this team winning a World Series than was the case last year or really past seasons? To that answer, I have to believe that is no. Now, to dive into why I think that is exactly the case, I first want to start off with the quote from Dave Dombrowski that has me particularly fired up. And he had a pretty lengthy conversation with the media. This was basically introducing JT Realmuto. And the quote that really stood out to me was this little blurb right here of quote, "We're content where we are." Now, I guess to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, his general managers are liars, man. That people do move in silence. And for Dombrowski, it doesn't do him the best, I would say, to, put it out there. We're still trying to spend. We still have guys, irons in the fire, trying to make things happen. And he could absolutely be doing things behind the scenes. But it felt sincere to me, man. It felt like, to me, this is sort of an open and shut conversation. The team they have is the team that they're going to. But if you ask Rob Thomson, he will directly dispute the context of them running it back. And to give that quote exactly, shout out to our guy, Luke Arcani, being in the locker room getting these quotes here, as he tweets out from Rob Thomson, quote, "We got 3 new relievers, a new right fielder. Crawford's going to be given every chance to play. A rookie starting pitcher, Otto Kemp, who wasn't here at the start of last year. That's 20 to 25% of the roster. If you think that's running it back or whatever the saying is, I don't know what to tell you." Well, Rob, to tell you what I would say to that is running it back is not, making moves around the edges. What running it back is to me is trying with this same core, not just Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner, but guys like Alec Boehm, how this organization has now tried to trade for 2 consecutive offseasons with no luck. A guy like Bryson Stott, who frankly has plateaued and regressed over the past couple seasons. The outfield still being the same question mark. We don't know what's going on with Nick Castellanos at this point. JT Realmuto, you gave a 3-year deal at age, 36 that he is right now. Going to be playing until he's 38 or whatever the case is. You know the deal. That's what running it back is to me, is that there were not clear foundational changes to why this team can get better. Now, I do want to dive into deeper for why this frustrates me, but before I do have to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor.
Before we get into the rest of today's show, this video is brought to you by Kalshi. If you download Kalshi using the link in the description and use code DIGESTMLB, you're going to get $20 when you trade your first 100. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the United States, and on their platform you can trade yes or no on real-life events such as sports, elections, news, pretty much anything. Now, whether you're in California, Texas, or anywhere across the country, Kalshi is live in all 50 states. For us sports fans, we can turn on game outcomes, playoff chances, or player performances, all on a regulated market in which you can cash out at any time. Looking at that NL East division title odds, we can see Philadelphia right there at the 32% odd on the trade. Yes, I think it's a really good one to make right now. We can also see the odds on their forecasted win total on Kalshi that you can trade on as well. It's genuinely the smarter way to use your sports or news knowledge, and you can close your position whenever you want. Test your ball knowledge today by downloading Kalshi with the link in the description. And again, use code DIGESTMLB to get your $20 bonus. We appreciate everybody at Kalshi for making this video possible.
Now, another point that I would push back against is this notion that the Phillies do not spend, or they are unwilling. They're still one of the top spenders in baseball. And just looking at what has gone down this offseason, they're looking at the top teams in the entire MLB. It is the New York Mets at $114 million, the Phillies with $179 million, the Orioles with $195.1 million, which is a bit of a surprise there, the Cubs and Blue Jays both in that mix here. And for what it's worth here, the Phillies are obviously very, that is driven by the Kyle Schwarber signing. But to compare that with other teams around the league, there is just not the same level of spending across the board. But we were sold the vision that this is the norm, that this is what we expect. And who said that directly was the owner in John Middleton there. I did want to pull up this quote from a couple years ago now, that John Middleton sat down with Scott Lauber of the Philly Inquirer to discuss his commitment to building a winning team. And this is what he told Scott, quote, How much did the 27 Yankees make, or the 29 A's, or the 75-76 Big Red Machine? Does anyone know? Does anyone care? Nobody knows or cares whether any of them made any money or not. And nobody cares about whether I make money or not. If my legacy is that I didn't lose any money owning a baseball team on an annual operating basis, that's a pretty sad legacy. It's about putting trophies in the cases. If your ambition is to be good, you don't make those decisions to sign Trey Turner. If your ambition is to be great, you make those decisions. It's about desire, really. I just want to win. And this is music to my ears. This is how an owner should be thinking. That, frankly, I do think sports teams as a whole, that when you reach that caliber of rich, that you have to have a hunger in you to be excellent at it beyond just the dollars and cents. And that's what I do think John Middleton is. But he's not the only one, man. And there's a lot of owners that are clearly willing to dig in the pockets deeper. And the prime example of that is absolutely with the New York Mets. Now, the move that I think shows this the most is this recent trade for Luis Robert here. We got this news from Jeff Passan that said the New York Mets are in agreement on a trade to acquire center fielder Luis Robert Jr. from the Chicago White Sox, sources tell ESPN. White Sox will receive 2 young players from the Mets. And for what it's worth, it was pretty notable prospects that they did give up. But Luis Robert is a guy that we've talked about on this channel for the better part of 2 years as a trade candidate for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, is Robert perfect? Absolutely not. Is he a guy that's worth the $20 million that they're going to be paying him? Probably not to that answer, that he's shown some real flashes. But when you are willing to spend stupid money, you can take these sort of risks. And that's exactly what the New York Mets are doing. Robert could get his footing again, have a change of scenery, and all of a sudden look like the 5-tool player that he flashed to be when he was at his peak for that brief stint of time. But he has not looked like that guy in over a year and a half. And the Mets are well aware of that. But when you're willing to spend stupid money, you can take those sort of risks. The Mets got better by making that deal. Does it change the overall scope of them as a World Series contender? No. I think the move like the Freddie Peralta deal absolutely changes them in a wider extent. The Bo Bichette deal changed them to a more significant extent. But the bottom line is they're willing to take these bites at the apple, swings at the plate, these attempts on these type of moves. And that's what's been frustrating me about the Phillies. There does not feel to be this creativity. That Bo Bichette was a guy that was sort of an opportunity that fell in their lap. That all of a sudden, this is a high-impact player that we have a chance at. Let's go out and do our best to try and sign him. And to their credit, they did. They did not land the plane. They did not find a way to execute the deal. I still have a hard time giving Dombrowski a ton of fault for that specifically because of the context of how that went down. He gave Bo Bichette exactly what he asked for. The end of the story was he took more money from the Mets, and there's nothing the Phillies can really do about that except that Bichette sort of played them in this spot. But you got to find other ways. That cannot be the only plan for the offseason. Looking at this lineup for next season, I don't know how you can talk yourself into this team looking ready to compete with the likes of the Dodgers and the top team. Dodgers really being the gold standard of the NL and really MLB right now. Looking at the lineup, expected for opening day, Trey Turner to the leadoff spot, Kyle Schwarber batting second, Bryce Harper batting third, Alec Boehm as the cleanup hitter without any sort of power in his bat still at this stage of his career, Brandon Marsh, Adolis Garcia, Bryson Stott, JT Realmuto, and Justin Crawford. That is just a very fine lineup to me. That isn't one that I'm rushing to, bet the future that the Phillies are going to win the World Series or get ready to make parade plans for when this trip goes down Broad Street. I just feel very, meh about this. I think Garcia is going to be an upgrade in the outfield. I'm excited for what he's going to bring to this team. It's absolutely right to bring Crawford up to the majors and give him an opportunity. But I'm not operating with either one of those being sure things. Now, to give Dave Dombrowski and John Middleton one more benefit of the doubt here is my larger critique for how this organization has been managed really for the past couple of seasons has been the lack of, notable movement at the trade deadline. There is a world to me in which this is a feel-out sort of season. Is Crawford good enough to make an everyday impact? Can Brandon Marsh figure some things out facing left-handed pitching? Is Andrew Painter actually ready to be an everyday rotation player? You will find out the answers to those over the first half of the season. And if you do sit back and say, what is this team really missing? Is the bullpen good enough? Do we need another legitimate outfielder? Which, by the way, I think they will. You can then attack from there. If this is a wildly successful trade deadline for the Phillies, maybe we can have a different perspective on things. But we got a lot of time and a lot of baseball to be played before we even get to that point. So we'll see how things do shake down. But another missed opportunity to just not get in the mix by this Phillies team. A really underwhelming offseason. And man, why did Orion Kirkring not just throw the ball to first base? So we got a lot more to get into this offseason, but did have to chime in and give my thoughts on that. We're going to be breaking things down from every single angle right here on Phillies Digest. Still plenty more to get into. So appreciate you guys for locking into the video today. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not just yet. Drop a like on this video here. I'll be back. Talk with you next time. Peace.